What's good, everybody? Today we are doing a mailbag episode. So, would you flip Bradley Bill, and could we flip Bradley Bill to Portland for the number 3 and maybe a couple of players? And what are the expectations for Johnny Davis in year 2? Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So we're going to do a mailbag, and we have a lot of good questions that we have plenty of time in all season to answer. So we're definitely going to chop it up. So a question coming in, and I'm trying to pull up the gentleman's name, but his question is actually, here's the crazy thing. We got this question from many viewers and listeners. And the question is, could we make a move to get Portland's number 3 pick, knowing that Damian Lillard made comments saying he'd rather they shop the pick for veteran help and not try to go, the draft route. So what would it take, E, to get the number 3 pick, and could we pull it off?
I think the only thing that could get us the third pick of the draft is probably Bradley Beal. We don't have any other assets to really give up that would get the number 3 pick. And then there's the report that they're looking for an elite small forward. That could be Mikal Bridges or Pascal Siakam, or you look at the Celtics and the way they're playing. I mean, who knows? Jaylen Brown might want out since they're not playing too well. He might want a larger role. Now, Bradley Beal, he did play small forward when we had Raul Neto out there starting. We had Ish Smith starting at one point. Or no, it was Russ. It was Russ and Neto starting, and Brad had to play the 3. And then Scott Brooks had some wild lineups out there. Gaff was starting or coming off the bench. And we had some wild lineups where Brad did have to play the 3, so he could be an elite small forward if he wanted to say that. But that's the only way I can see it happening. That's the only way we can get the third pick. And Brad's salary is so high because, looking at the NBA trade machine, he's making $46.7 million per year, around that. Now, Anthony Simons would be the guy that would be attached to the pick, because a lot of the reports are that Anthony Simons would be attached to that third pick of the draft, and they would send him to either the Nets or the Raptors. But for us, it would have to be Bradley Beal for Anthony Simons in that third pick of the draft. And a third team may have to be involved. If it's just us two, then maybe like Simons. Simons is only making $24 million, so he's on a really, really good deal. So you have to attach a lot of salary just to get to Bradley Beal's number, to make the numbers work and to make the salaries match. You got Nasir Little, who's making $6 million. Yusuf Nurkic, who's making about 16, so 16 plus 24. My math isn't too great. But you have to add a couple guys, and I don't know if the Blazers are really willing to do that. And then you may have to add another team just to make the numbers work. So, but there was a report. I think a guy close to Damian Lillard said that the team is not interested in trading for Bradley Beal. So I don't think it's very likely that happens. And of course, you can't forget about the no trade clause from Bradley Beal. Does he want to play with Damian Lillard? And the Blazers, they already went that route with 2 guards and the CJ McCollum Damian Lillard duo, which would be pretty similar to that if they brought Bradley Beal. So do they want to go that route again? They rather go with a small forward. But if the Wizards want to rebuild and Bradley Beal actually decides to move on, then I think that could be a slight possibility. But does Brad want to play in Portland? Does he want to go to LA instead? Does he want to go play in Philly since James Harden wants to go to the Rockets? And then B reportedly wanted Bradley Beal. So I just don't see it happen. I would love to get Scoot Henderson if he falls. And because right now a lot of mock drafts have the Hornets taking Brandon Miller at pick 2 instead of Scoot Henderson because they already have LaMelo Ball. But who knows? Michael Jordan is the GM, so he may go against the grain. He might actually take Scoot. He might just take BPA, best player available, and we'd be out of luck. And I mean, we wouldn't be out of luck because Brandon Miller's a darn good player too, but I'd rather have Scoot than Brandon Miller. And it's like, okay, what if the Hornets actually draft Scoot and you end up with Brandon Miller? And I would be happy with Brandon Miller, but I'd rather have Scoot to rebuild and start the franchise over. I feel like Scoot is more of a franchise guy. So you're kind of rolling the dice there with that. So I just don't see it. I don't see it being likely. But that would be a way of it happening is Bradley Beal for Simons, the third pick, and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it would be tricky, man. I mean, at first glance, it's like, yeah, man, if we have an opportunity to get the third pick, but that, again, no trade clause. That contract makes it tricky. And from a Portland standpoint, do they really want to invest all that money in that backcourt, especially the backcourt being an aging backcourt? I just don't see it happening. In order for us to pull it off, because we were talking before the show, man. Anthony Simons would be one, but it would have to be a 3-team trade, and they would have to move Nurkic, and we would have to move Daniel Gafford. Which, I mean, is he an upgrade over Gaff? Yeah, but I don't really see it as a necessity. We don't really necessarily need to upgrade right now from Gaff. So yeah, it would be tricky, man. It would be tricky, but man, wouldn't that be something? Because it's just getting this on contract office is not gonna be easy. It's just not, because he gets paid more and more every year, and then no trade clause. He's not getting any younger. It's just, especially talking about if he's gonna stay around for a rebuild. I mean, I think we're in it, man. With that contract, I think we're in it. I don't think we're going to rebuild anytime soon, unfortunately, and that's just my opinion. But all arrows right now are pointing to running it back and trying to add pieces around this pre-existing core. But yeah, getting back to draft picks at the 3, man, I think Charlotte's going to take Brandon Miller. I don't see Scoot and LaMelo Ball coexisting in the same backcourt, because the concept of trying to have 2 points, especially 2-point guards who can create their own shot, in the same backcourt, it hasn't been successful. I mean, it didn't work in Atlanta. And you look in Dallas. I mean, Luka and I'd be very surprised if Kyrie Irving comes back. So the concept of having 2-point guards, so maybe, Charlotte's flexible and tries to, move the pick. But then, looking at GMs, no disrespect to MJ, man, but from an executive standpoint, he ain't looking too good, man. So, but getting back to that pick, that would be a dope pick for the Wizards, because you can pick a player who can make an impact. But I still think that this draft is deep enough that, you can still find guys who can alter your franchise at the 8. And we're going to talk a lot about the draft. Obviously, we talked about Anthony Black, Cam Whitmore's a couple names. But so getting back to this trade, I mean, it would be a nice trade, because I don't want to say this, but we would kind of trade a burden, which is that contract is a burden, man. I mean, hate him or love him, that contract is a burden to this franchise, and getting that contract off the books would be a big win. But that's the thing. His contract is so enormous, man, that they would have to send us 2 to 3 players just to match. And from an opposing GM standpoint, why strip my team for one guy? Why strip my team for one guy who, look, he's a scorer, but his 3-point shot is diminishing. And he's only got so many moves in his dribble game. And he's proven that he can't handle the ball in clutch time. So, I mean, again, just there's so many reasons why his contract, I think he's here to stay, because as he gets older, it's just going to be hard to move on. So, yeah, it would be a nice trade, but I don't see it happen, because it will take so many pieces. And again, the question arises, why would Portland strip their team for Bradley Beal?
Yeah, I think it would be weird. It would be questionable for them to trade the third pick, in my opinion, for even Mikal Bridges. I like Mikal Bridges, but I don't think he's not going to push the Blazers over the top. Pascal Siakam, I like him too. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he makes the Blazers better than a lot of teams in the Western Conference. He doesn't make them better than the Nuggets. Who else? I mean, the Lakers, they're struggling right now. I don't think they would be better than the Warriors with Mikal Bridges or Pascal Siakam. So, and then the Blazers are in the same spot with Damian Lillard. Like, Damian Lillard is, once again, a great player. Bradley Beal's a great player. Damian Lillard is an all-NBA caliber player, all-star, all that clutch, Dame time. I get that. But once again, as a number 1 guy, you can only go so far with him. And they already hit their peak making it to the Western Conference Finals, losing to the Warriors. Just like when the Wizards, we hit our peak with John and Brad, getting to the second round. That CJ McCollum Dame duo, like, they already hit their peak. They hit their ceiling. So it's really time for them to blow it up. The Wizards and the Blazers are really in that same middle spot where they're still trying to build around this one guy. They're both good players, but they're just not going to lead you to a championship. So they really should blow it up. But once again, Dame wants to be there. And he said he doesn't want to play with 19-year-olds. He wants to get a veteran, an all-star that can play next to him. So, I mean, the Nurkic thing, to your point, getting him, he would be a tradable contract. He's making, $16 million per year. So that's not a bad contract at all. That's a pretty tradable contract. Simons is a tradable contract too, but you might want to keep him because he's a really good young player. Scoot and Anthony Simons would be a fun backcourt to watch. So I think the Wizards would be a very competitive team with Scoot, Anthony, maybe Nurkic, and I don't know if you keep Kuz, but Nurkic and KP would be interesting. But once again, the point of the trade is just really rebuilding and moving on from the contract of Bradley Beal. And you get a young player that you can really jumpstart your franchise with, is Scoot Henderson. So, but I mean, like you said too, I think the Hornets will draft Brandon Miller, but it's tough, man. Sometimes when that player, I just believe in Scoot's future so much to the point where I would highly consider drafting. But him and LaMelo, yes, they would be an odd fit because LaMelo dominates the basketball and Scoot dominates the basketball too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild draft, man, because again, MJ he doesn't have the highest marks for his draft game. So, but we'll see, man, because I just think that Brandon Miller is more of a fit. But
I agree with you too on that because he's a small forward.
Yeah.
So he would be right next to LaMelo, Rozier, and Bridges. If he comes back next year, we'll see what happens with that.
But stranger things have happened. A lot of people didn't have Banchero going number 1 last year, so
right.
Stranger things have happened. So we're gonna move on to a question about Wes and what his future may lie. And does Johnny Davis take that leap in year 2? Before we do, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. So buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater gigs near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped. So I'm a person, I go to games year-round. If I'm not going to Nats, O's games, I'm going to Commanders, Wizards. I just love my sports. So, I've tried every website out there, Ticketmaster, SeatGeek, but this one seems to be the one that fits me. Forget playing months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Gametime guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Oh, man. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know what you're looking at. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through email. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and redeem LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Every dayers. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to chop it up and we are going to talk about Cam Woodmore. That's right, the DMV native from Villanova, who would be a really nice pick. But let's get into it. So this question is from a longtime listener and watcher, Abel Ambrosio. And he asks, if the Wizards had to fire Wes, who are some coaching candidates that were let go that you want to be the next head coach? And what are some expectations for Johnny Davis in year 2? What do you think?
So the people that are out there, Nick Nurse, Doc Rivers, I'm kind of questionable with him because in elimination games, he's lost a bunch. He's lost with the Sixers multiple times. So I just don't know about Doc, to be honest right now. His track record hasn't looked good the past couple seasons. But Nick Nurse is intriguing. Kenny Atkinson's available. I like him a lot. Ime Udoka got scooped up. I think they loafed on that one, to be honest. I thought he would have been a good candidate, despite some of the off the court things that transpired. The Rockets, I think they made a good decision hiring him. Nate McMillan, he got fired from the Hawks. He did just go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Mike Budenholzer, who we talked about, we had an episode about him getting fired. We talked about him. The guy was the one coach of the year. He did a great job with the Hawks. Just won the finals, 2 years ago, literally 2 to 3 years ago. Multiple 50-win seasons, 60-win season with Giannis. And, he just has a decorated resume. So, there's some heavy hitters that really are available out there. There's some good candidates. That's why it's just so frustrating at this point because they're keeping West when there's just a lot of, big fishes out there. Some coaches with some really good track records that have won championships and been to championships. So, it's intriguing. And it still reminds me of how we still don't have a GM. We haven't had any workouts yet, reportedly by, I think Neil DeLaw said that they haven't had a workout yet. They haven't hosted a workout yet. Other teams are starting to do workouts. We haven't done that. So, because people talk about this, and I'm getting off topic with the coaching thing, and we'll talk about GM too, because we got to talk about some of the candidates. We got to catch up a little bit. But it is frustrating, I know people say when we hire a GM, they're gonna like their guys, they're gonna know. But I still feel like there should be somebody in, just getting the ball rolling, talking to guys, and waiting on Bob Myers is just such a gamble. But to get back to Wes, I'll stop with GM stuff. To get back to Wes,
Preach.
those are the guys that are available, man. Like I said, I like Kenny Atkinson a lot. He's been available for the past couple of years, but yeah, those are the guys I would look at. And then Johnny, it's gonna be a slow process with him, man. And like, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen with him next year. I like what I saw at the end of the year, but he had some bad games too. Me and Brandon, we went to that Rockies game where he shot like 10% from the 3-point line. He had a really rough game, but he had a couple good games down the stretch too. I think the Heat game, he had a good game. So he showed some promise and some development. Confidence is key with him. How much playing time he's going to get? He's going to be right behind Bradley Beal. We definitely need his defense and his tenacity and his rebounding and just motor for sure. Got to improve on that shot. Got to improve on confidence. Got to improve on the ball handling. Just a lot of improvement areas for sure. Just as every young guy. But well, the question was expectations for Johnny.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't really have high expectations. I just want to see him develop and get better. I don't want to set any expectations, honestly, at this point. I just want to see development each day and being more aggressive and being ready to shoot the ball for one. Attacking more, stop passing up shots. He stopped doing that. So confidence is just so huge with Johnny. That would just be the main thing for me, honestly.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with Johnny, man, and I totally agree with you. His confidence is so key with Johnny Davis. But man, last year was weird because he just started out just straight garbage. I hate to say that, but but the way he went to the G League, he figured out the speed of the game. He went up against guys who either were high draft picks or who had played in the league before. He figured out the speed, he improved. He really did. He improved, and he looked pretty good in the second half or roughly the last 10 games of the year. So man, I don't know. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that he's gonna work on his game because you saw a big improvement from Johnny Davis. You saw the work ethic. You saw the basketball IQ. You saw that he really worked on his game in the G League. And he came back and he provided quality minutes for the Wizards in his last 10 games. So I'm gonna say this. I think he averages between 7 to 10 points next year on the second unit. And I think that his shot is going to be more consistent. I think he's going to take I'm not going to say he's going to take a huge leap like all-star. Nah. But I think that he's going to grow within the next couple of seasons into a really quality role guy. Now, as far as his long-term picture, I don't know. He could make a leap. I hope he does. But, for right now, my expectation and your expectation is if he can develop into a really good role guy, then I'm cool. Come in, do his job in the second unit, show the defense, improving the shot. So, I think that he does take a leap. He gets more comfortable, the confidence shows, and he will take a small leap. And I think that his average will grow and his shooting averages will go up. Going to Wes, I mean, that's that's crazy. I mean, all these coaches, and we have Wes himself. I mean, it's not, I'm not trying to bash him, man, but let's be real here, man. I mean, his MO coming over from Denver was defense. The defense has been trash. All right, there's been issues. There's been locker room stuff here and there. It's been 2 years where you really haven't seen much progress or progression as far as him as head coach. Now, I think a lot has to do with the fact that he has a link to the franchise. His name, his dad. I mean, you go through a lot of players in Wizards of Bullets history, but I mean, homie, he got an MVP and he won the only title we got. So, I mean, his name is synonymous with probably the biggest figure in the franchise history. And so and there's been a couple ideas being floated around that suggested him going to a front office role, maybe a development role, because I see. But maybe doing that and bringing somebody in. But I'm with you. I'm not in favor of that. I mean, if he's not working out a coach, why would I put him in charge of scouting? But that's just my thing about it. Coaches that I would like though in the hypotheticals. I mean, Monty Williams, Nate McMillan. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, you look at most of them. I mean, Budenholzer. Woo! Can you imagine Budenholzer in DC? That's a good team. I mean, he's going to get a lot out of his players. Budenholzer gets a lot out of his players, and you can definitely say that a lot of the development of Giannis, you could kind of attribute to him, man, because Giannis coming in the league was very raw, man. And so he's a coach that I would love in DC, but again, we got Wes. He's here. And they're giving him more responsibility. So, unfortunately, this is, they waited. They're waiting too long for a daggone GM, but then they like 5 minutes in the offseason, they said they went ahead and just said we're going to stick with West. So questionable, yes, especially with the fact that we don't have a GM. And I know I'm getting off topic, but I'm with you. It's frustrating because we're going towards the draft, and long and behold, we haven't even worked anybody out. It's come on, man. So that, again, that's a topic for another day. But before we move on, we're going to talk about a past episode. I did hypotheticals about OG Anunoby and Jordan Poole that we haven't got E's perspective yet. So we're going to go ahead and talk about could they fit in DC. But before we do, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Now, PrizePicks has a new $1 million daily super flex promotion for the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals. Every day of the NBA finals and the playoffs, one PrizePicks user will win a chance of becoming a millionaire. One entry placed after 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time will be randomly selected each day. Whoever placed that entry will be given a 6-pick flex with the following payouts. 6 correct picks get you $1 million. 5 get you $80,000. 4, $16,000. Full details can be found at prizepicks.com/million. You must opt in at this link to be eligible for the $1 million entry. And once you opt in, all you have to do is play the game like normal, and you can be the lucky winner. How does it work, though? How does PrizePicks work? Well, you pick 2 to 6 players, and if they go score more or less than the PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. That's right, 25 times your money. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you can watch. This includes the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, PGA Golf, college football, men's and women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. Is that easy, safe and fast withdrawals. Currently operational over 30 states and Canada. Our neighbors to the north. And download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code locked on. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code locked on and sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. So before we roll past episode, I did my take on could Jordan Poole and or OG Anunoby fit in DC. So, and then we never got your side. So obviously Jordan Poole, we're waiting on Bob Myers, but he's been synonymous with, Golden State doesn't know if they're going to run it back, what the future lies for the big three in Golden State. But one name that has not been mentioned as part of the future plans is Jordan Poole. And OG Anunoby, his name has been kind of put out there as a potential trade piece for the Toronto Raptors. So, looking at what both of these players provide, do you think either one of them can be a fit in DC?
OG Anunoby, yes, for sure, if they're still trying to win. If you're trying to rebuild, I think the Jordan Poole trade is the trade that you're trying to make. I know the Warriors reportedly had interest in Bradley Beal when they had that 7th pick and the 14th pick that ended up being Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. And they were going to give up possibly Wiggins or Jordan Poole. If you're trying to win, I don't see Jordan Poole coming here and pushing this team to the playoffs at all. That would be a rebuild move. Bradley Beal requesting a trade to the Warriors and waiving the no-trade clause. I like Jordan Poole's game. I'm a big fan of him. I love how he can get buckets, how he can cook. He's a great 6-man off the bench scorer. He had a really bad playoffs, some immaturity. I just think he didn't even really fight Draymond. It was a one-sided thing because Draymond punched him. He didn't get a punch or anything like that. I do think that mentally affected him this season. I do think that mentally affected him in the playoffs. You saw him on the sidelines kind of going back and forth with coaches as well. You see Steph Curry trying to talk to him, and he kind of brushes him off from time to time. So definitely wasn't a good situation for him this year, and he's not innocent. He's at fault as well in some of it too. But somebody punching you in the face like that, it can certainly affect you for sure. So there definitely was some bad blood. But as a player, I think he's a good player. I think he's a great player. To be picked 28 in the first round, to be such a late pick and play the way he has, he's been an awesome player for where he's been picked. And I think he's a really good three-level scorer for sure. And he can really pass the ball and can score. Decision making is questionable, but I'm a big fan of his game. I really am. But as far if you're trying to win, no. But if you're trying to rebuild and just move off with Brad, he really wants to go to Golden State, then sure, you bring Jordan Poole. But OG Anunoby, if you're trying to win now, he would be the perfect 3-and-D guy for the Wizards. He can shoot. I want to say he made an all defensive team, if I'm not mistaken. You're gonna look at it. Jordan Poole's making $27 million per year. It's gonna go up to 31. And the last year of his contract is going to go up to 34. So he's a pretty big contract as well. And the Warriors basically they're going to move on from him. They are. There's not a question about it. Yeah, OG Anunoby led the league in steals this year. He was all defensive team as well. So I mean, they need a 3-and-D guy, and he can shoot the 38% from the 3-point line, 83% from the free throw line, 16 points a game, 5 boards, 2 assists. He would be perfect. If there was a way they could keep, if they could have Brad, OG, Kuz, and Porzingis, then you're cooking with fire. That's a playoff team. I don't know if they make it to the second round, but they certainly made the playoffs. And you find a point guard. It doesn't have to be an elite point guard, but if you have a solid point guard with Brad, OG, Kuz, and Porzingis, you're cooking with fire there. I think you make the playoffs. I think you can make a 7th seed or maybe even a 6th seed of these.
Oh man, with OG, you definitely cooking with grease. I mean, I'm saying like. That's definitely a playoff team, but like you said, it depends again on direction because right now we don't. There's a lot of unknowns right now to this franchise, right? Like we don't have a GM. We really don't have a clear direction. Like there hasn't been official. This is what we're doing, because still, KP and Kuz haven't re-signed, so they're still, depending on whether they're going to match, and pretty much both of them are going to decline their player options, but. It's just we don't know what we're going to do. Like you said, if we're rebuilding, yeah, absolutely. You run Jordan Poole with a young squad and you see what they can do and go from there. I like his game too. I like his attitude, man. Anytime you can rile up Draymond, man, it tells me something about you. I'm just saying. And he can take a punch a little bit. I'm saying, so he has a little dog in him, but obviously you get punched in the head, it's going to change your mind frame a little bit. So it definitely changed my mind frame. But I like his game. I do. I like the dog in him. Now, OG. He would definitely elevate us. But here's the thing. I mean, I don't know if they're going to move him. I mean, I think they're going to try to clear up the log jam at the 4 because I don't think Siakam's in at the 5. And Scotty Barnes, I know he can kind of play the 4 to 3. I think they're going to run it with OG and Scotty Barnes. I think Siakam's probably going to be the guy to get moved in Toronto. So, but OG would, he would definitely come in and he would, defensively, this 3-point shooting, he's starting to become more of a, put the ball on the floor. He's working on his game. I'm a big fan of Anunoby too. So yeah, depending on I'm with you, with the direction. If you're competing, OG, if you're rebuilding, Jordan Poole. Now, if you're able to find a way to bring Jordan Poole here and be a 6 man, I'm not against that, the second unit, but then, obviously we have so many guards already. So yeah, they're intriguing. But again, we're going to see a lot of, prospective trades and moves. But here's the most frustrating part before we move on, man, is that we don't even have a GM. It's tough to really, and we're trying to give you all the answers, man, but it's just hard because, from this, analytical part of it, we can't predict because there's not even a GM that dictates a direction. So we don't know whether, this guy or this guy can fit because we don't know what the direction is. And that's the frustrating part right now about reporting on the teams that, we don't have a leadership right now in the front office. And it's just so questionable that you're going to put all your eggs in one basket and wait on Bob Myers, man. It's so questionable because right now you need to be working people out. And I know we get off topic, but let's go ahead and roll real quick on it. I mean, it's just abysmal, man. I mean, no workouts. We're not looking at anybody. So before we roll, man, you got anything else you want to cover real quickly?
No, we can definitely get ready for tomorrow. I think this was a good episode. It was a fun episode.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. Every day is tomorrow. We're going to chop it up and grade and talk about Cam Whitmore. That's right. He is from the DMV and he grew up a Wizards fan, but his skill set coming out of Villanova is much needed in DC. So we're going to talk about it tomorrow. And again, appreciate y'all. We're getting close to the draft. So we're going to do a lot of draft content and off season, obviously leading up to off season. We're going to talk a lot about potential moves. So definitely tune in, kick it with us this off season because it's going to be fun. So again, appreciate y'all. Hail to the Wizards and